All right, and welcome to episode 30 of the Quit Eating Animals show. I just want to start off by saying thank you for over 300 subscribers. By the time I wanted to do this, I was at 290, 98, and then I was going to film it, and then I waited a little bit, and then now, look, we're over 300, 302. So again, appreciate all the subscribers. We're on our way to 1,000. And I thought this was pretty interesting because we're on episode 30. 300 subscribers. I don't know if it makes any difference, but it's a coincidence. 300, 30. I don't know, but here we go. This episode's pretty cool because it really started and stemmed from, I do a question of the day or a history or this day in history, and I kind of relate it to a question or a trivia question. And one of the questions, I was looking up this day in history, and I saw talking about the Ringling Brothers back in the day of basically a unicorn, and it called out the ASCPA or somebody came and tried to verify that if it was in fact real unicorns that the circuses was claiming, that they were claiming that they had unicorns, and so it was drawing this big crowd, but then these people didn't believe it, and so they had to really check it out. And so that story is very interesting, and it really, as a kid growing up, I never really questioned circuses or zoos or, thought about the way the animals are treated, and brought around and showed to these people and paying, and it's really exploiting them. And then when you really look into the treatment of the animals to try to get these animals to be able to do these tricks, it takes massive amounts of training. And if you go and look at footage and some of the documentaries around the elephants, I mean, they whip these elephants and until they literally, do what they are told. Same thing with these tigers and lions and all of the animals in the circuses are treated. They're chained and they're just over and over. They're trying to do these tricks for humans, and we're exploiting them. And I just don't think many people think about it. And so when we got into veganism and looking at the way the animals were treated, one of the videos we came across was Gary Yavorski and his story about his father on how and why he became vegan or really saw the animal abuse and the animal torture, slavery is what he called it. And so we're going to watch a short clip, and I think that's going to be impactful. So it's going to be a pretty good episode. So again, appreciate the over 300. And if you have not subscribed, please subscribe. Really helps us out. Ask some questions in the comments. I'm here to answer them. And I got good times going back and forth with the comments and answering some questions, and hopefully getting people to think a little differently. We got some trolls out there and things, and people, just trying to throw in their comments and their 2 cents. But in reality, it's coming from somewhere. And I think everybody who comments is somewhat impacted by the 3 words, by the content, and you're closer than you think to quit eating animals. I guarantee it. So if you're watching this far into this episode, you're there. I mean, you're literally there. You just got to change your mentality and make the decision and go. And it's just the best decision that we've ever made. And we're super excited to, really share information. I mean, we've been, this quit eating animals for over 6 years, and it's really time. And we're so super confident that what we're sharing is in fact the truth, is in fact the way that we believe is the path for so many good things, so many great opportunities, just a whole new vision, a whole new feeling of life, and your day-to-day activities and just how you see everything. And so it's really eye-opening, and it's been a journey. And so we want to include you in the journey and share our journey while we continue it, and know that it is the path forward. And, it's just a matter of time before you go vegan, before you quit eating animals. So, it's either, now or in the future. So why not get ahead of it, get in front of everybody, jump on this, and don't look backwards. So hopefully we're encouraging you to quit eating animals, and that's really the mission. So without further ado, let's get into it. So this video here, So unicorns are real. Let's go ahead and play this. Unicorn is a white hooved creature with a single forehead mounted horn. And this creature is a unicorn. So Oberon Zell in Morning Glory, a wizard and witch, created these unicorns out of a friendly white goats. And you can see the picture there of them. And what they did there was they manipulated their horns so the two grew together as one. And they were toured with the circus for years. And the Ringling Brothers, Barn and Bailey, dazzling viewers. You know, they marketed they had the unicorn. And so it says none of them are alive today, but I think I came across a video of where some of them, like, they exist. And we'll take a look at that.
Believe it or not.
So let me see if I came across that one. So this is another article, but let's talk about the circus here. So it talks about the Ringling Brothers Museum, Sarasota, Florida, explained the story of this creature. So in the 1980s, the Ringling Brothers claimed they had a real live unicorn. It's 1984. The unicorn is called Lancelot, and his brothers debuted at Madison Square Garden of the tune of Rocky. Of course, the world fell in love with Lancelot immediately. But again, it raised a lot of questions. So, you know, humans, it says, entranced by the idea of unicorns. Most people don't believe they are real. But when Lancelot debuted as part of the circus in the 80s, Ringling Brothers Vice President Alan Bloom claimed the animals were authentic and magical. They are the only unicorns in the world. They're priceless, he said. They're all males, and I believe they're brothers. Bloom also claimed that they were ageless, so it was impossible to tell how old they were. And this is where it says ASPCA wasn't buying Bloom's tale and worried that the ornamental horns were hurting the animals involved in the show. The naysayer was wrong. Ringling Lancer's head x-rayed. Amazingly enough, the results showed that his horn was actually a part of Lancelot's skull. There was nothing tying it to his head. So did this mean unicorns really exist? So technically he was a real unicorn, but it wasn't mythical ageless creature, though. He was a goat with two horns and were bound when Lancelot was still a kid, fusing them together as they grew up over time. The single horn was the master plan of self-proclaimed wizard Oberon Zell. He became so obsessed with unicorns that he wanted to make one of his own. Zell read up on the work of 1930s biologist Franklin Dove, who had discovered a way to perform a surgical operation on kids when they were less than a week old. At that part of the development, the horns are still part of the baby goat's skin and are not yet connected to the skull. Stitching the two horns together towards the center of the head forces them to grow together as a single horn. And here's a YouTube video of 2009. So I don't know if that really exists, but
what are you doing?
This is real. And so somebody, you know, fused their horns together as a baby, and we're literally manipulating these goats, these animals, to get what we want, to either sell them and show them or put them on a video for everyone to see.
Hello,
and that to me is a little ridiculous. I mean, think about, you know, we're altering the way these goats are meant to be. I mean, I can't imagine that we feel good about this. I can't imagine that we feel good about this. So, there you have it. That was, let's get back into that article. Oh, that was it. Okay. So, but again, that just came, I had no idea that they did that. And so the circus, to me, you know, is all about exploiting animals. And that's exactly what veganism is not to not do everything possible to not exploit animals. And this is absolutely exploiting animals. We're manipulating them to become or say that there's something different, in this case a unicorn, and it's strictly for money. I mean, it absolutely was strictly for money. In most things, obviously, we exploit animals for money, for profit, and that's what's leading to all of the billions of animals exploited. It's money. It's all about the money. And so we need to get past the money. We need to stop having money control our decisions. And we're going to do this, I'm going to say, one step at a time, and it starts individually. It starts with you. It starts with me. It starts with us. And it starts with sharing more of this information, because people don't realize what we're doing to animals. And this is, I know this was back in the day, but this is the type of thing that we're doing. In fact, this isn't the worst thing in the world that we're doing to these animals, but it's certainly an example of something that we should not be doing to these animals. And if this isn't even the worst thing that we're doing and we shouldn't be doing it, who's to say, or what's to say that about for the things we absolutely know we should not be doing to these animals? Because I know that you don't feel good about what we do to these animals. So, it's easy to look away. It's very easy to look away and not talk about it and not think about it. But when you actually face the truth and face what our money is contributing to and what our purchases are going towards and funding, we're absolutely contributing to this. And not this specifically, but certainly the treatment and pain and torture and killing and slaughter of these animals when we don't have to. So our next video I want to bring up here is Gary Yavorski. And I hope I did not lose it. I think I did. Darn it. Still trying to get better at this. There we go. Gary Yavorski, Elephant Circus. And there we go. So this is a 5-minute video. Let's hear him.
Circus. When I was about 23, he invited me backstage. Now, mind you, at that time, I had no idea what went on behind the scenes at the circus. So he said, "Hey, Gary, come on backstage. Come see the elephants. You want to see the elephants, right?" So I'll never forget that day. Michigan State Fairgrounds, 8 Mile and Woodward. I'm standing in the warehouse area, face to face with an 8,000-pound elephant, her front left foot in chains, back right foot in chains. She was swaying back and forth neurotically, which I later found out was the neurotic behavior that elephants always get in the circus from being immobilized and confined all the time when they're not on stage. At that time, I also didn't know about the training techniques, which are vicious and brutal. I mean, you must beat down an elephant to make them submit and acquiesce to the trainer.
So if I say rip his head off, rip his foot off, what does that mean? It's very important to do it, right? You tell him to sit on, all right, sit, you let him get there. When he starts squirming too much, both, boom, right under that chin. Sit, and you better back up, because his feet should be flying right behind him. Then when he around too much, don't grab that leg. You sink that hook and give everything you got. When it's in there, go. It is going to start screaming. Sink that hook in them sometimes, and when you hear that screaming, then you know you've got their attention a little bit. Right here in the ball. You can't do it on the road. Do it again. I'm not going to touch her. Over. She's going to do what I want. That's just the way it is. I am the boss. I will fix it. Tough.
I had an epiphany at that spot. I mean, common sense took over from there. I looked into her eyes, and I saw nothing but sadness, hopelessness, and fear. I looked to the left, I saw lions and tigers pacing in their cages. Looked to the right, I saw monkeys screaming in their cages, holding onto the bars. And I walked out in a daze, baffled for the rest of the show. And the bears came out wearing yellow tutus and riding tricycles. At which point I stood up and I left. And from that moment on, I wanted to know what else happened to animals. Animals I thought I cared about because I had a dog, because I loved my dog, Bourbon, and my dog, Brandy. All of a sudden that meant I loved and cared for all animals. Nonsense. I later found out what happened at slaughterhouses, where my food came from. And I wanted to know, where did my food come from? Where did my clothes come from? Was animal research really necessary? I knew it was unethical. I later found out it was unscientific. What happened? What else happened at the circus, at the rodeo? And I investigated. I investigated like crazy, and I didn't believe PETA or any other animal rights person when they sent me information and told me foxes were being anally electrocuted on fur farms, or that 50% of all animals in slaughterhouses are dismembered while they're fully conscious. I was as skeptical as anybody. I'm like, no way, there are laws out there. There's no way animals are being treated like this. Well, I later broke into fur farms, broke into research labs, went behind the scenes of every circus that ever came through Michigan. I saw slavery firsthand. I heard their screams, and it was worse than what PETA told me. It was worse than what was on the videos. I did 6 weeks of research, 6 weeks at the Thorn Apple Valley Pig Slaughterhouse in Eastern Market, Detroit, Michigan. I went there every day for 2 hours to 6 hours just to sit there and watch and listen to the pigs scream one by one as they were being killed. I was no further than about 50 feet away from the killing floors, and I would just sit there and listen to them scream. And I was not a vegetarian at this time, and I was not vegan, I was not animal rights, but I was learning, and my mind was open. And
So I didn't think it was going to play all that, and but although it was a little graphic, I think it's important to see some of that sometimes. So, I think especially if we consume those things, I mean, where our food comes from, I think it's appropriate to be able to witness that at least. And if it makes you feel a little something, or makes you feel like it's not right, or it's a little bit unnatural, it's because it is unnatural, and it is not supposed to feel good for us to witness that, to take part in that, let alone take part. I mean, who out of us? I mean, a lot of people said that they do those things and that they would easily kill an animal. However, if actually given the knife, would you actually stab the animal in its throat and slice and then continue to carve their body parts out and feel good? A lot of people say delicious, or that looks good, and you can actually look at an animal and see deliciousness. And I know that that's just fabricated. I know that people just make that up, and that's that uncomfortable feeling that you're getting. And so that your comedy, you put it out into words, and you try to be funny to make yourself feel good, or to satisfy that dissonance, that uncomfortable feeling that you're getting from watching these, from hearing the words. And so I get it. Now, I don't necessarily, I think that everybody turns vegan or quit eating animals differently. Some do it instantaneously. Some do it, a little, like, just chip away at it. They come across a video and it makes them think, and then or maybe they cut out dairy first, and then they learn about eggs, and then they learn about fish, and then some people just they instantaneously just give it up. And so there is no right or wrong way to do it, but we know what the ultimate goal is. The ultimate goal is to quit eating animals entirely and all of their products, and to not continue to exploit them further. That's just not something that we should be doing. So this is eye-opening, and I think that not a lot of us talk about these things. Not a lot of us talk about circuses or zoos. But you heard Gary Yavorski, and you've seen some of the footage of what these circuses, what these elephants go through to be able to do these tricks, or the monkeys say, to be able to do these things. They beat them over and over and over again. And you heard Gary say when they were chained and they were swaying back and forth, and that's that neurotic behavior from being chained up and going literally insane. And so this is not something, elephants are supposed to walk like 50 miles a day, and yet they're chained and they can't move. Same thing with orcas. If you really go into and look at SeaWorld and look at the orcas over there and the picture, and maybe I'll do that on an episode, just to show you of how small of an area that they get to live in. These huge whales that are supposed to swim, hundreds of miles a day, yet they can't because they're in this tiny, tiny, tiny pool in comparison to the ocean. And so I think it's time that we look at these animals differently. We look at the way that we're exploiting them. We really ask ourselves questions of, is this something that we should be doing? Is this something that I want to be supporting? And I think what you'll find is that if you don't like the way that these animals are treated or the way the animals are kept, why are we supporting them? We just shouldn't be. We absolutely shouldn't be. All right. I think that is it. That's it for episode 30. That's it. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit subscribe. 300. Thank you. We're on our way to 400. We'll celebrate that as well. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks.